The 9th anniversary of One Piece Treasure Cruise is now concluded, but I decided to make a video ranking the 6 new legends that debuted during the anniversary based on how good I think they can be in the future, because of course all of the legends released in the first month of the release will be extremely good simply because the events throughout that month are all tailor-made for the new legends. Also, of course, as always in One Piece Treasure Cruise, everything depends on the new content, and every one of these legends can be the best, depending on the situation. But I wanted to do a general tier list for fun as well, and have in mind this is my opinion, and all of these legends are good anyways. For the tiers, we have the best, only one legend can be placed there, in my opinion the best of the anniversary, and then the other 2 tiers obviously very good and good. I don't really think I need to explain much, so let's get to it with the first batch of the new 6 legends, Luffy, Yamato and the Oden family. For Luffy and Yamato, my placement will be the very good tier, or tier 2 if you want. They are a very strong unit, a very good universal captain, even though they are favoring strength, dex and Q, these 3 colors, not only because they give special cooldown reduction through their captain ability, but because these are the 3 colors that get their very good ore boost through their special. Being a universal captain will always, no matter what, be beneficial, because even if you want to use a Sai or an Int unit that does not get the ore boost from Luffy Yamato, they will still have their attack boosted from the captain ability, so that unit is not completely useless even though it is obviously in a disadvantage. This unit also introduced something new, a dual unit being able to enter their dual form without activating the special. They do it with their super swap, and if you are in their dual form, their special becomes 10 times better. If they are in their dual form, not only are you getting a better ore boost for 1 more turn, but they can apply increased damage taken to the enemy through immunity, which is insanely valuable. And these are just the main improvements if you activate a special in their dual form, among other things. I can definitely see a lot of people being annoyed that you need to manage their super swap properly so you can actually get the better special, but in my opinion Bandai did a very good job in the single form captain abilities to help you obtain their super swap, because if you are on the Luffy side and you beat an enemy, then the super swap is decreased without you swapping, and if you are on the Yamato side, if you get damaged, then the super swap is also decreased by 1 turn without you swapping. Good utility is also present in their captain ability, with you being able to resist 10 turns of bind no matter the form of the dual unit you are on, and of course don't forget extra utility is there with specific slots becoming matching, RCV slots being able to be consumed through perfects or even having reduced damage taken. Their swap is also pretty good. Their super swap specifically can give you color affinity for 2.5 times, only for free spirit units though, but this is a very good color affinity boost coming from a non-special action. Of course, the guaranteed Wano slot on them, even through a block slot, is also very strong. Generally, the Wano slot manipulation they have in their kit can be very helpful, because you also get Wano slots if you activate the combined special ability, only though for adjacent units, not the entire crew. They also have a pretty decent final tap ability. Is it the best one in the game? Absolutely not, but definitely a good addition to this unit. In my opinion, a lot of disappointment for this unit did not come from their actual abilities, but more from the character selection for the first legend of this big anniversary Sugufest. Then we have the Oden family, another dual unit that I will place in the good tier. Definitely not a bad unit, but also definitely a step down from Luffy Yamato. This is not a super Sugufest unit, it is an anniversary specific legend, so still a limited unit. In my opinion, something might be missing from this unit. They are a good utility unit. From their special they can remove 7 turns of despair and paralysis. Is it the best combination of removal? Probably not, but again, that always depends on the situation and the content you want to clear. They're a pretty good healer, being able to provide overheal, healing through their special, healing through their swap, and even healing if you hit perfects at the end of each turn. But then, for damage boosting, They are only focused on slasher characters, which can be pretty underwhelming. Also, from their captain ability, again, they are focused on slasher characters only, and them being released with a non-slasher unit in Luffy Yamato, that is a bit weird. The color affinity boosting at 2.75 times is strong though, but again, only for slashers. Then they also have the mechanic where their super swap meter can be reduced without you swapping if you fulfill specific requirements depending on the form you are in, but of course they cannot go in their dual form without you activating their special. With their swap, they are again slasher focused, providing an ore boost, a better one in their super swap at 2.5 times, and they also can get a Wano slot, but not through a block slot, so definitely their Wano slot manipulation through their swap is not as good as Luffy Yamato. Generally, I see a pretty limited unit here. You are either going to need all of their utility in a quest to use them, or you are going to have a full slasher team that can get benefited not only from some of their utility, but also their boosting. Moving on to the next pair, we have Sanji and Queen. First, we are going to discuss about Rush Sugo Special Sanji. This is a new mechanic specific for Legends. I don't think it is an amazing mechanic, definitely can be beneficial, but I am not going to focus so much on that mechanic talking about Sanji. I think he is the best anniversary legend we got, simply because he can provide chain boundaries and the rest of his kit is insanely good. Essentially, if you can provide either chain boundaries or you can apply a debuff to the enemy ignoring immunity, and alongside one of those things, you can do more with either utility, more damage, super class, super type, final tap, something like that, you are already a very good and future-proof unit. But of course, there is a limit to that. We have to take into account what requirements the character has to provide those things. Like for example, with Luffy Yamato, you need to super swap them and then activate their special. That can be a pretty stiff requirement to fulfill. But with Sanji, not only does he not have requirements, he also has an insanely strong kit. In a nutshell, he can provide chain boundaries, then amazing utility, with no requirements, you don't need a specific class or colored captain, he can remove 7 turns of damage reduction and increase defense, he has slot manipulation through type slots and even block slots, he can even allow you, if you attack with color advantage, to maintain a matching RCV slot through his captain ability, he can give a boost in base attack for Free Spirit and Fighters, but still Free Spirit one of the best classes in the game, and then he can optionally swap to the captain position to give you Superclass, a Free Spirit Superclass character, so for one of the best classes in the game, Free Spirit, and through his Super Swap, he can remove the captain swap debuff, so he can go back to the crewmate position, or technically, he can remove it even if he is a friend captain, and that is the first time we see something like that being achievable in One Piece Treasure Cruise. So far, before Sanji, we just had to prevent the captain swap if we did not want the swap to happen. We did not have a way to remove it. Sanji provides that. He can also give you healing and a chain boost through his superclass, meaning he can give you the amazing combination of chain boundaries and a chain boost to increase those boundaries as close as possible to the upper limit. I'm not even done yet. Through his captain ability, he gives special cooldown reduction, makes slots matching, and of course allows overheal. If you attack with color advantage, he guarantees you a matching RCV slot in the next attacking turn as well. Crazy good kit. And in my opinion, just like Super Tandem Nami, he can definitely withstand the test of time and will be a very good unit for a pretty long time. Moving on to Queen, I will place him in the good tier. Someone could definitely make the case for him to be higher. I will rank him over the Oden family though. In my opinion, Queen has a weird class combination which can be beneficial and non-beneficial at the same time. Beneficial because he allows you to use different characters with him that are not specifically bad guys, like for example Robin Jinbe, Uta, or even Halloween Law. But on the other side of the fence, if you want to pair him up with bad guys, and his kit definitely works well with them, you probably need a full driven team to get everything out of his kit. And the reason his class distribution is so important is because for those two classes he gives an attack boost as a captain, and for those two classes he provides a color affinity boost with his special. So because tons of int bad guy units are powerhouse, they're either powerhouse or driven, or maybe both. If they're driven, great for Queen. If they're powerhouse and something else, maybe it won't be that great for Queen, if they're powerhouse slasher or powerhouse striker, for example. The fact that he is mainly a color affinity booster as well is not the best type of boosting, and you can get more damage boosting from him, but you have a requirement to meet. You need an attack boost, an ore boost, and color affinity boost. Then you get increased damage taken on the enemy, but it does not go through immunity, which is a big deal, and then you get to drop the enemy's resistances by 30%, only for driven and cerebral attacks though. The thing with Queen is that he has great utility in his kit. He can remove 6 turns of increased defense, 6 turns of threshold, manipulate slots, even through block slots, and then he can also apply end of turn damage for 3 turns, which can be extremely helpful to bypass resiliencies. And we of course have to talk about his captain action, where he becomes transparent and can avoid debuffs like Bind, Despair, Silence, Slot Bind, Special Rewind, Paralysis, and so on and so forth. And he can, on top of that, make his own normal attacks ignore defense and damage reducing barriers and buffs. A very similar captain action to the Soba Mask one, which is kind of ironic if you think about it. And even though it is a very decent one, we cannot ignore some very evident problems here. First of all, as a captain, he cannot provide you with a superclass or a super type, which can be a problem. If you do not have him as a double captain, his captain action can only ignore his buff. So if both of your captains are getting despaired, only he will evade it, not your other captain. And the same goes for every other debuff. To add to that, with his special, he does not deal with any of the debuffs he can ignore as captain to save the rest of the team. So if the entire team gets paralyzed and you use his captain action, even if he is double captain and he completely evades it, then he cannot remove it from the rest of your crew, which means you still need a paralysis removing special. So Queen's captain action immediately loses tons of value. Now for Despair, it can work, but you need him as double captain, and now you are missing superclass and super typing. He does have super tandem though, not the best one in the game. At maximum level he can remove 3 extra turns of threshold, but if you don't have him at the maximum level and you only have him level 1, he can only remove 1 extra turn of threshold to his 6 from the special. And another reason I talked about his class distribution is that he only gives a tandem attack boost to driven characters. So cerebral characters get nothing, and he does need bad guys for his super tandem to work properly, meaning that the beneficial diversity he can have as a bad guy in Legend, being paired up with cerebral characters like I mentioned before, is definitely diminished because his super tandem will be useless for the cerebral units. And moving on to the final pair of legends, we have Super Tandem Zoro and also Super Type Albert. Now, I have made breakdown videos for both of these units. I have actually extensively talked about this Zoro. Let's keep it brief with him. I will place him in the very good tier behind Luffy and Yamato. The fact that he does not have a superclass or a super type ability definitely makes him lose value. More than Queen, because in Queen's case, Queen's captain action can definitely help, but Queen is not a unit that is dependent on his captain action as much as Zoro is, and on top of that, Queen also has a lot of utility in his kit. Zoro is a damage boosting focused unit, so him not having something that can provide you with more damage, a superclass or a super type, definitely makes him lose value. Does that make him bad? Absolutely not. He can still be very strong. A very good attack boost from his special 3.25 times for 2 turns, only for free spirit and slashers though, and then also a very good conditional attack boost for increased damage taken. Not a lot of units can provide that in the game. Super Tandem Kaido from the last year anniversary is a great example though. Now, he is also the only unit in the game that can manipulate a Wano slot to a tandem slot, specifically his Wano slot so you can have access to his Super Tandem ability. A thing about his captain action is that it can be pretty annoying to increase his goes because you need to consume Wayno slots, and you need 10 to get his best captain ability in the Unleashed Enma state, but you don't need any Wayno slots to transition into the Enma captain ability state, where Zoro allows you to get a guaranteed Wayno slot in the next turn if you attack with color advantage. That immediately makes it easier to gather the Wayno slots, and if you achieve Unleashed Enma state, Zoro's attack has color advantage over every color. He can apply increased damage taken through immunity and double the damage limiter the enemy has. But all of that amazing stuff are locked behind the Wayno slot goes. We can definitely say he is goes and also HP dependent, because if you do not have enough HP to fulfill the Enma requirement at the end of its turn, then he goes into the weakened captain state, and that is absolutely horrible to use. The Enma state only requires 15% of your crew's maximum HP at the end of the turn, but the Unleashed Enma state requires 60%. The 60% requirement for me is not a big deal, simply because mainly throughout the quest you want to be gathering Wayno slots, and then in the final stage, before you finish off the enemy essentially, you want to go into the Unleashed Enma state. So the requirement of 60% HP is not the biggest of deals. To also quickly mention, his Super Tandem ability is one of the best Super Tandem abilities in the game, if you have it level 4 or 5. In the lower levels, it is still decent, but he loses some benefits. This Zoro does have a big question mark next to him, in my opinion, because the past Kizuna was structured around him, so it had extra enemies in stages 1 and 2 for you to farm Wayno slots. In the next Kizuna, that won't be the case most likely. So will it be possible for you to max his goals before reaching the final stage? We have to wait and see. And we also don't really get longer content anymore outside of Pirate King Adventures. And if Zoro is not boosted there or in Treasure Map, we are not going to use him, so we have no reason to worry about his goals. Simply because of the absence of longer content, and someone could even say the laziness Bandai Namco has in providing more content without specific boosted lists. Each month, this Zoro, a very interesting character, unfortunately gets limited even more. And that is the main reason why I will rank Super Type Albert over Zoro. If we were still getting longer content for 5 stages like Arena or monthly raids, I would probably have Zoro over Albert. But they are both good units, definitely both in the very good tier, and their positions are interchangeable. King, just like Queen, can actually resist some specific debuffs on himself. Without a captain action though, straight from his captain ability. And Queen has a bigger variety of debuffs, but Albert has Bind Despair, Special Bind Paralysis and Special Rewind, the widely used ones, the most common ones. And on top of that, something that Queen, I mentioned, lacks is the fact that with his special, he can remove some of the debuffs he himself resists from the rest of the crew. Specifically, I am talking about Special Rewind and Special Bind for 2 and 7 turns respectively, but only for Driven and Powerhouse units, meaning that if we use a unit that doesn't have these two classes and we fully well know that is not going to be boosted, attacking wise, by King, but we just want to use the unit anyway for utility purposes, if we get Special Bind or Special Rewind, we can't really use said unit, we just need a Driven or a Powerhouse one that does the same or a similar job. Something that counts for both Queen and King is that if the entire crew has paralysis, King as double captain can resist it, but the rest of the crew still has it. So if we need to attack with everyone, then we need to remove paralysis, with the paralysis removing special coming from our crew. So King's captain ability loses value in that case. Of course, he only resists the debuffs on himself. If we have him as single captain, and let's say our captains get despaired, the other captain, the one that is not Albert, will still be despaired, meaning we need a despair removing special in our crew. Other than the debuff utility, he can provide very good slot manipulation, even through block slots. He makes all the slots into his slot, which means that you might be forced to use his super type special before his special. And if, for example, you have him as a single captain, you might want to keep the chain multiplicative buff you get from his super type for the final stage, but that is impossible to do if you are depending on him for the full board of matching slots, because if in the mini boss you have block slots, if you just activate King, then he will manipulate the block slots into block slots because he has a block slot. But if you use his super type before you activate his special, you will manipulate his block slot to a Wayno slot, and then everyone else can also have a Wayno slot. Super type special and normal special goes hand to hand when we are talking about slot manipulation with this King. But then, for his damage boosting, he has a very good chain boost, the best in the game, but only if your captain is driven or powerhouse. So as we can understand, he is very driven and powerhouse focused. A disadvantage, a limitation, but at the same time something we can all understand, because if he was universal for everything, he would be broken. Then, if your crew has chain addition, attack boost and an ore boost, for the two classes he provides a chain growth boost and a base attack boost. He can also give a multiplicative chain boost through his super type, which means this character has lots of chain boosting, lots of unique boosting, and he is an incredible combination with someone that can provide chain boundaries. And that is my ranking for all of the 9th anniversary legends. Sanji is 1, Luffy Yamato is 2, then we can say King and Zoro tied at number 3, Queen is number 4, and the Oden family at number 5. Do you agree or disagree with my list? Tell me in the comments down below. Also tell me which of these characters did you actually manage to pull during the 9th anniversary Sugofests. As always, thank you so much for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.